Hello everyone, this is Charlotte and we're chatting in cars. This is a podcast where I talk about random topics. Feel free to chime in with any kind of random topic you would like to discuss. I'm sure there is somewhere on the comment section that you could add your stuff into it. As a trigger warning, yes, there is swearing, yes, there are sensitive topics. If you don't want to hear anything about that, that's absolutely fine. You can turn it off now and go and find something else to listen to. I suggest the Beastie Boys or something interesting like that. The topic I've chosen for this ride home, I'm currently driving home from my friend Ellie's, is Australia. Living in Australia. I was supposedly born here, so even though I'm English, I have dual nationality, so I have some insight into both living in the UK and living in Australia. I was raised here, and yes, the rumours are true. There are drop bears that try to kill you. Come over, it's great fun. Everything is trying to kill you. I find it interesting that the extreme weather which we face as a norm is currently being felt in Europe, and they're only just cluing on that maybe it's a scary thing to embrace, which I find interesting. Our summer is apparently, not normal over there. It's interesting. 40-degree heat. Actually, tell the truth, that's a nice spring day. It's 45-degree minimum. If you go up to Port Hedland, which is up north on the west side of the country, it gets up to about 50. So while the UK at the moment has been having temperatures of about 30 and shitting themselves, it's somewhat warmer over here. I would expect in places like Africa it might be warmer still. What do we know about Australia? Stereotypical things mainly. I've lived here my entire life. I don't want to assimilate into the culture, so that's the reason I probably have an English accent at this point, because my family's English, my friends are English. I didn't assimilate into having the language. Well, I have the language, it's our language to start with, English. They put a slang to it and mix it with some other shit. That's why it sounds weird. But, I didn't assimilate, but I am acquainted with the culture itself. I've not been able to get hold of it properly. I'm not what I would deem a bogan. A bogan is someone who is... I'm trying to understand it now. Consider mulleted, beer swilling, beer gut, flip-flop or Ugg boot wearing, footy loving, slightly racist. Or is that just the area I was living in? It's very... They love the sports, they love drinking. It is very much an outdoorsy kind of culture. There's not much culture where there is, inside activities, besides watching the footy. So as a place for holidaying, it's quite good, I suppose. Having gone back to the UK as a tourist, I would say that's way better. But our interests would be different, I think, because my interests lean towards, cultural things like art galleries and museums and things, whereas people who come over here for a holiday tend to want to get into the sun, to the beach. And there's only so far that goes, I have to say. Eventually you'll get sick of, sunburn and ants and spiders and snakes, especially snakes. You'll develop a slight, PTS twitch, instant death approach to snakes and spiders, where they didn't even get a chance to recognize that you're there, that you just instantly kill them. The extreme temperature. You forget how hot it gets until summer hits. And then you're like, oh shit, I forgot where I lived. Okay. The stormy weather. At the moment, we've just had some crazy winds come through. I live in an area which is particularly windy because we live in a bay, which collects westerlies like a motherfucker. So my roof has nearly been blown off a few times. That's extreme weather. It comes through torrentially, like hurricanes. In winter, we have a lot of hail. We don't get snow, but we get hail. And that'll stuff up your car. In summer, it's blistering heat where things melt, like the bitumen, or shoes. I've had high heels melt into roads before. It's great. Think of all the stereotypes you've seen on YouTube. It's true. It's very true. It's true. You're thinking it's not true because it's funny at the time. We're laughing because it's true. It's fun. The healthcare system is good, which I feel sorry for America for, because they don't have a good healthcare system, but we do. We got things like bulk billing, where you don't pay for doctor's bills at all. We got Medicare, which was meant to be like Obamacare, but Obamacare got dropped. I need to look into it. I don't know why it got dropped, because it was a genius idea. Maybe it was just too much money was needed to fund it, or something like that, because the circumstances have got so dire. But we've got Medicare, which is the basic healthcare, which is if you need an ambulance, it's free. We got private healthcare, which everybody gets anyway, which we tend to pay for, but it's always at a low rate. At the moment I've got HBF, which is just your standard basic healthcare. It's pretty popular. I think I pay something like $30 a month, and that covers me for like glasses and teeth. That's the very basic plan. It's pretty good. Once a year I order a shitload of contact lenses. I do need to go get my teeth checked, but yeah. Whereas people in America are like, I need my teeth, and I can't afford to even see a dentist. The healthcare system's good. Everyone makes a joke of the politicians, but that's just a general politician thing. Mainly because we went through that phase of about a year or so where we kept losing prime ministers. They just kept bailing. I think we went through like 4 of them in a year or something like that. I don't know what the hell happened. So everybody just fucked off. It's like, I don't feel like doing it anymore. Okay, well, this is a bit weird. So who's running the country? I don't know. You wanna have a go? That's fine. All right. No, that was fun. We don't have particularly, as far as I can see, culturally extreme. It's not a very extreme culture when it comes to, you know, I'm comparing America basically. They've got some right-wing weird people there, with like full-on gun people and terrorist-hating people, all kinds of things where they go all out. It's pretty laid back here. Politically wise, it's not really taken that seriously. It's something that happens in the background. We're too busy, you know, running jobs and stuff with jobs that we kind of just tend to leave it in the background, let them do their thing. Eventually, we all vote and we all complain that we have to vote, but we get on with it anyway. It's like, you mean I have to take time out of my day to go and do this? Annoying. There's no intensity like what America has, where they have rallies and shit like that. If they did have rallies, I don't know who would turn up, quite frankly. It's too busy doing other stuff. Plus it's boring, so nobody really wants to get involved in that. It's bad enough I have to leave my house on a voting day and go find a school where the ballots are. It's just irritating. In any case, I'm politically neutral anyway. I never really vote properly, so whoops. Don't you want to hear your voice? Not really. Not really. I'm pretty chill. I'm okay with what's going on. I don't care. Economy-wise, we're doing all right. We've got lots of decent jobs. They keep telling us that our unemployment rate's dropped, so we're like, okay. It's pretty laid back. I wish it could be more stressful at this point. I feel sorry for the UK at the moment because they're going through a massive poverty cycle, essentially. That's my home. It's my home. So every time something comes up in the UK where something's gone wrong, I'm personally affected by that. I feel emotionally affected by that. I don't want to see those guys suffer. They've been through enough shit. So yeah, but it is. If you can get past the fact that everything's trying to kill you, and I'm talking about weather, animals, people, you know, I think you'll be fine. I mean, because the structures that are here are pretty okay. There's jobs, yes. If you qualify, they really want like technicians and things like that, or higher order jobs. There is manual labor if you want it. factory workers, fruit pickers, stuff like that, if you're on a visa for tourism, is available if you go. Actually, it tends to be up north for that because it's in the tropical area. As a holiday destination, it's okay if you want beaches and stuff. There's not much culturally here. I'm the west side of Australia at the moment. I'm in Perth. It's a big, vast area. Everybody's sort of clustered around the city because if you go further inland, it is hot as fuck and there are sheep farms. And that is it, basically. And somewhere around about the middle is Uluru. So there's not much to see here in terms of anything. No, we don't drink emu export. Anyone who drinks emu export is just probably a tourist, actually. It's like, and they all think, for some reason in England, they all think Australian drinks Foster. It's like, that has never, I don't know if that was a cultural thing since the 70s. It's like, nobody's drinking Fosters over here. Nobody's drinking that. I don't know who ever drank that, because we export it and we can't drink it because it tastes like piss. So, don't drink Fosters and assume Australians drink Fosters. If you are cheap drunk, you drink export. Or Woodstock if you're drinking bourbon. That's cheap shit too. Most of the time, depending on the area you live, you're either drinking Carlton or, something along the lines of, if you're going more fancy, or if it's a cultural thing, like you've got a cultural background in it, you're going to drink things like Guinness and stuff. Or if you come from a hipster area like I lived in for the last God knows how many years, a couple of years now, you're going to be drinking craft beers, which are the most pretentious bullshit I've ever fucking heard of. Can you taste the pears? No. This tastes like every other fucking beer I've had on this fucking rack. Why are we drinking this shit? Why are we in denial that we just want to get shit-faced? We're sophisticated. No, you aren't. It's a fucking craft beer. It's made with armpit sweat. What are we doing here? I never got into that culture. Anyway, so that's the upcoming hipster culture. That's been around for a few years, where everybody gets their, that's just a subgroup where everybody gets their, like, beards and lumberjackets out, even though they've never set foot near a tree that needed cutting down. So, yeah. Usually cashed up people, or pretentious people. I wouldn't do that. So you've got subcultures like the surfies. Surfies are still around. I was a surfie in high school. It's pretty cool. Blonde, beachy kind of chick. That was alright. I grew out of that and went into goth, so I'm not a goth anymore, no. So you've got lots of little subcultures. Multicultural wise, yes. It is pretty melting potty. Very multicultural culture. We like to assume that we embrace all the other cultures, although we don't really have a choice. They come here and just sort of plant and get on with things. So we're like, okay, they're here now, so okay. And by other cultures, I mean non-Caucasian, English-based. We are taught from a very young age that what we did to the indigenous people was wrong. So you'll find that as a repeating rhetoric in the culture, and as a constant nod towards heritage and Aboriginal culture and acknowledging, there's a whole statement that they say, it's like acknowledging the owners, traditional owners of the land. That's very big. Although it doesn't come up in everyday discussion, it's usually a more formal setting, like if you're having an assembly or if it's a statement at the start of some kind of TV program or something. We acknowledge the traditional rights of the Aboriginal people. It's better to look it up. Don't quote me on that. It's better to look it up if you want to be official about that. We're aiming for equality. The only problem we've got at the moment is there is a American influence on Australian culture. It was primarily based on the English culture, essentially. And then it sort of migrated towards Americanisms. Particularly around the 60s, 70s, I'd say. So now, America we have been Americanized quite a bit, culturally, which I'm not entirely keen on, because I don't think they're doing so great themselves, but yeah, very westernized. We are a part of Asia, technically, location-wise. That means that the cheapest holidays you're going to get are up north. Don't bother going over to New Zealand if you want a cost-effective holiday from here. because it costs about $2,500 on a plane ticket. That's essentially maybe a 5-hour trip. Whereas if you go to Bali, you can get a plane ticket for about $300 if you were going to travel from outside here. Most people in Australia will head for somewhere like Bali, which is just north of us, in the Indonesian area. We learn about Indonesian languages here. I was taught for about 3 years to speak Indonesian. I cannot remember a damn word. Probably because I was a teenager and I didn't care. But that's I had other things on my mind than learning Apa Kabar and Bak Bak Saja. It didn't stick. I wish it had. I was more concerned with my exams at the time. But definitely it's a good language to have. The whole point they taught us these languages was so that we could have trade partners later on. If we wanted to go work up north or in the other Asiatic countries, like some of the schools taught us Japanese, Chinese, well not Chinese, but like Mandarin, stuff like that. At the moment they're teaching in schools German in the areas I am. I don't know why. Why are we learning European languages when we live in the Asian area? But I don't know. Probably because that's where, we might be looking for trade partners and things like that. I don't know. It's an interesting idea. What else can I tell you about Australia? Koalas are terrifying. They have 2 thumbs and they screech like a banshee. They are not cute and cuddly and they will hack your face off. Kangaroos will fuck you up. They are 6 foot tall and built. Even little ones grow up to be big ones and they will kill you. They will stamp your face out. Emus are the same. So while you're going around Australia trying to take pictures of cute fluffy things, some of which get run over repeatedly. I keep finding what's in my area? Not quokkas, quendas. Similar. I've dead quendas and quolls everywhere, which are kind of like giant rats. Keep finding those squished on the roadways, which is not cool, because I'm pretty sure they're endangered or something, or protected, something like that, but they're everywhere. It's a bit like when you're driving through the little lanes in England and those pheasants throw themselves out into the road. Similar vein. It's horrible. I'm on the west side of the country, so if you want to go anywhere of historical significance, the best place you could probably go is Rottnest Island. It's an island of an outpost where they used to house the convicts and indigenous people back when, you're convicted for being, indigenous or put into slavery and stuff like that. Go through Fremantle, you do the tram tour there, they will give you a very good rundown of what happened exactly in that area. I went over to Sydney for the Opera House and things like that, October for the Invictus Games. October 2018, I think it was. Yeah. And I did a tour of that area, and that was pretty cool. Sydney Opera House, huge. I went and saw Evita. I would definitely recommend something like that. It's an amazing place. It might be a bit expensive to get into, but I was using it as a one-off, so I was pretty stoked to get in. I didn't climb the bridge. I did walk across it though. I shot myself looking at the height of it. I'm going, I'm not climbing that fucking thing. It's like, you tourists can do it. We live in a country where fear is encouraged. I'm not doing it. Drop bears. You get up there and there's like a massive nest of redbugs or something. He's like, I'm not doing it. I would thoroughly, try the food. Food's great. We don't have the really weird stuff. If you want to go get some really weird food, go to Thailand and Bali, where they're eating all kinds of shit. In Australia, things seem pretty westernized and generic, but there's a mix of westernized version of generic foods. So when you go to Chinese restaurants, you have the westernized version of whatever they're serving, which is kind of like honey chicken and the most generic shit you've ever seen. Although in the UK, whatever you order is usually served with chips. In Australia, they don't do that. If it's an Asian meal, you'll generally get rice with it. If it's a Americanized meal, you'll get chips with it. If it's English meal, you'll get chips with it. It's I don't know where this crossing of genres happened in the UK. I don't know where that happened. Because you can get a curry with chips. I'm like, this is crazy. Why are we getting curries and chips? One of my cousins was showing me around the UK last time I was over there. He's like, oh, let's go get some food. It's like, what is this weird mix of food? I recognize parts of it, but to put it together in a scene is just odd. Yeah, what else can I say? Food. If you absolutely can, I hope to God you're going to go and try some kind of indigenous themed activities. I went on a historical tour of Botany Bay from the viewpoint of the indigenous people in that area. I would have loved to have done a bush tucker tour where you go and eat some of the foods they did, but they do that as well. Sometimes you can get an incursion into schools and things like that. Because I'm a teacher, I always have access to this kind of stuff. It's really weird. Where they'll come in, but it's like a community-based thing where the elders will come in the area and they will bring in the foods that they have cultural, attachments to, like witchetty grubs and kangaroo, and I don't know how damper got in there, but I'm pretty sure they didn't start with damper. I think that was more like a colonization food. But I would love to go on a tour of that where you can actually try some of their bush foods, like native plums and things like that, because they know how to found it. It's like foraging, but all native plants. If you go into Perth, you can do like a tour of Kings Park where they actually do, which is a huge botanical garden up the top of a huge fucking hill, where they talk about the history of the area, the civilization on the Swan River, settlements, the traditional tribes that were in the area, or are still in the area actually, to be honest, they haven't gone anywhere. It's really great historical-wise. I would thoroughly suggest that. If you wanted to go see something more tropical, or I would head up north, Port Hedland area, Darwin. Over east, I've only been to Sydney, but over east apparently they have some decent places if you want to go, like snorkeling, stuff like that. It's Gold Coast. I don't know if there's any gold there anymore, but there's a Gold Coast over there. All our mines, on this side, all our mines are in like Kalgoorlie. Well, they still are functioning gold mines. You got the Argyle mines, which are opals, I think. Things like that. So we do have a lot of mining. If you're looking at Australia in general, if you're looking where the money is, it's on the west side. And I'm not talking about we're all rich over here. I'm talking about all the industries on this side. So we've got mining, we've got sheep, we've got livestock, cows, crops. If you go over east is where the civilization is. So you've got cultural things like museums and things. We've got a museum. We have the Museum of Perth. It's called Bala Boop something. I don't know the name because I haven't learned the language properly, but it's a pretty decent museum. But we've only got one, so and that services all of Perth. No, there's a few, but they're tiny and they're sort of locationally relevant. Whereas if you go over east, all the culture seems to be on the east coast, and all the industry and money-making capabilities on the west coast. Up north is military bases, and then we've got Tasmania. We don't know what the fuck's going on with Tasmania because they're an offshoot, so we don't know what they're doing, but they seem to be having a good time. So nothing bad has happened yet. And we've got New Zealand. That's not us. We're not part of New Zealand. We love New Zealand. They are their own people. Please don't confuse the two. They are not attached. I know a lot of tourists get that wrong. It's like, I'm from New Zealand. It's part of Australia. It's like, no, and don't ever say that to a Kiwi. They will fucking cut you. Don't ever say that. That is a big cultural pride thing. Just don't. Because there has been known to be a rift between Australia and mainland Australia and New Zealand at times. But they are definitely their own people. They are very cool, very funny as fuck people. You've got to get some New Zealander friends. They're hilarious. Every New Zealander I've ever run into has been as funny as fuck. They are awesome dudes to hang around, particularly the Samoans. We got Maoris, Maldives, and Islander people. They are the best. If you can make buddies with those drinking buddies, they are the best. They are very protective of girls as well. I've noticed. I like that. And they're big dudes. So yeah, it's always good to have friends over there. But yeah, I would go over east. I would go over to New Zealand on a holiday definitely because I want to go and see the hobbits. But that's different. Australia is like a holiday destination if you want to go to the beaches, essentially, if you want to get out of the rain of the UK or the tightness. Like, I've noticed that the living quarters in the UK, everything's sort of built on each other. You come out to Australia, it's just like flat and it's laid out. You're going to need a car. Everything is spread out. Trains and buses that we use in the UK are difficult to get to. Unless you want to go up and down the metro line. Like, I was looking at the tube map because it's all new to me when I first started going over there, and I was getting lost because the tube map was so intricate to me compared to the one single train line basically that we have. It's expanded since, but it's like it's one line and it's got something like 4 branches. It's not complicated at all in Perth. You are not going to get lost on that. Whereas the tube is, oh my god, multiple lines. It's crazy. It's all built on itself. I would suggest, because of such a long distance, that you get a car. It's just easier to be able to get a car and go places you want to go anyway, without waiting for trains and buses and shit. We drive on the left-hand side of the lane. For all the American people or the French people, left-hand side of the lane. Can be tricky at the start, but you'll pick it up. I'm hesitant to drive on the right-hand side of the lane because I went doing that through Belgium one time, and I crapped myself when I came to a roundabout because it threw me. So I don't know. I wouldn't do that myself. I don't know. What else? Best time to come over. Best time to come over is definitely not at Christmas because it is fucking hot. Best time to come over is not in autumn either. Maybe spring. So we're like, it's August now. September, October. November, you're starting to heat up. So October, September, October. Come over in, yeah. Because it's temperate weather. You can go to the beach. You're not going to get pissed on, literally, or by the rain. It's pretty alright. It is torrential hurricane rains at the moment, come June, July. August is the last month of our winter. It's the wet season. It's wind like crazy. So if you wanted to come around, I'd say, August, September, get a tour bus or something, just wheeling around beaches and stuff. Summer is hot. And you'll find the best times to stay indoors are in the middle of the day. We go out in the morning and we go out in the afternoon, and we generally stay indoors for the middle of the day because it is too fucking hot to leave the house. And I have many tips on how to stay cool in the summer. So even though UK is facing a heat wave right now, the Australians are turning around and going, oh, that's cute. I've been here, 37 years now. I can give you some tips on how to stay cool. What else can I tell you about? It's weird because I'm not really sure what else I can tell you about it. Because I pretty much live in it. It's hard to explain what it is because I just take everything for norm. My parents jumped ship. They came over here in 1983. I was born in 85. So this is all I've ever known, really. I mean, I call the UK home just because of cultural ties. I feel more safe and at home over there. Whenever I can, I go back. Whenever I can afford to, I go back. I've been over there 4, 5, 6, 7 times now, I think. I can't remember. It's been a while since I turned like 21. I keep going home. So I live over here, but I holiday over there for the cultural stuff. So it's a very laid-back area. It's a very laid-back country. I think the worst thing maybe we have is the One Nation Party. That's maybe the worst thing politically we have, which everybody treats as a joke. So no one's taking it seriously. If you Google it, it's the One Nation Party. It's Pauline Hanson. It's essentially white Australia. It's stupid. No one believes it. Nobody wants it. And it's an ongoing joke that it even exists. Besides the worst, that's politically. Socially, just like any other countries, the area you live in is dangerous depending on, you know, the SES of the area. I've always lived in a low SES area. I've only just upgraded to a nice area. And that's only because I really put my ass in gear and started earning my own money. Not relying on other people. So, crime-wise, you're not going to be stupid and go to a high-crime area, are you? It's not like living in the middle of London where there's a lot of knife crime and stuff like that and getting mugged. So I can't vouch for that. I've always known I feel very safe living where I do now, which is a fairly newish area. I'm in an apartment block which is still low rent for the area, but it is quite an upgraded kind of big house, like really big housey kind of area. Of course that would be different. Most of our cities are on the coast. You're lucky that way, so you're not far from the beach. Food shopping capabilities. What am I seeing out of the window? The shops are readily available. It's going to be all right. So living in Australia is okay. People think that it's a good idea to live here because of the weather. I think that is wrong. I would live here because you have a lot more freedom compared to, say, the UK. I've lived in the UK for a bit. It's a lot less expensive. The weather is ferocious. You do get attacked by animals. If you're stupid enough to chase after them, I mean, seriously, what? So, yeah, I would visit as a holiday destination. Basically, I would also go to New Zealand as a holiday destination. I would not live here. In fact, I'm looking to move back at some point to the UK just because I favour that culture. Ooh, nearly run over the neighbour. It's not as bad as everyone makes out. I mean, again, extreme weather conditions and stuff like that, but generally an okay country. It's not a third world country, it's a first world. So, yeah, what do I know about Australia? I've been here nearly 4 decades now. A holiday destination, yes, but you have to be outdoorsy to fully appreciate it. The cultural stuff is on the west coast, is on the east coast. The wealth, if you want to go into mining to make some serious money, is on the west coast. So you're going to have to make a choice there, depending on what you want to do. Bearing in mind that whatever we make on the west coast gets filtered tax-wise to the east coast because they take the large chunk of our shit through GST and crap like that, thanks to the federal budget. Which we are still not happy about because we should be richer than this. It's a bit like Terry Pratchett's Ankh-Morpork. If you ever read the Terry Pratchett stuff, oh god, I'm trying to remember. There's a counterbalance island or country or something like that, which is made purely of gold. Whereas Ankh-Morpork is like shit. Essentially, everything's the shitty area, but it's where everybody lives. So yeah, I would Google that. It'll give you some kind of gauge as to what it's like living on the west coast versus the east coast. Yeah, he's a good writer. I wish he hadn't passed through. Anyway, I'll leave it at that because I've got to go and do some other stuff at home. I've just pulled up. So if you want to come to Australia, it's great. What to take away from this? It is a decent country. They call it a lucky country. I'm yet to figure out why it's lucky because the weather is extreme and the animals are trying to kill us. But once you get past that, you should be all right. If you want to go mining, you want to go to the west coast. If you want to have a look at cultural stuff, you go on the east coast. It's pretty easy and straightforward there. You're not going to get lost. I suggest getting a car. If you want to, the best thing you can do is go all the way around Australia on a tour bus or a car yourself and stop off and have a look at the different areas. Yeah, so Australia's pretty okay to live in. For my sake, I would rather be in the UK, but that's me. Right, I'm going to leave it there, and hopefully you guys are going to have a good weekend. That's my other podcast. I'm hoping for another topic on Monday on the way to work. So I'll leave you there. Have a great weekend, guys.